All right. I see some of you are marathoners here. You've gone through teach-ins and the solar panel and now the electric panel. So this next one, last one was about solarization. And as we said, now we need to figure out how we plug all that solar and wind and battery storage into our homes, because that's what it's really all about, replacing the fossil fuels. So our moderator is my good friend and colleague, Andy Foster, who's from Tupper Lake. He's one of our leaders with Inside Third Act Upstate New York, particularly in the North Country. So Andy, take it away.
So as Michael said, I'm Andy Foster. I'm a volunteer with Upstate Clean Act, Upstate New York Third Act. I'm delighted to be moderating this, and I'm really excited to introduce three fantastic panelists. Sitting right next to me is Daniel Morrissey. Daniel is the Director of Sustainability for TAP Inc. right over in Troy. Through that, he is a partner in the Capital Region Clean Energy Hub. Daniel's professional and expertise is in building science, but he combines that with a true passion for social and community and environmental justice. So welcome, Daniel. In the middle, we have Lisa Marshall. Lisa is the Advocacy and Organization Director for New Yorkers for Clean Power. She is the ultimate community organizer. Lisa has been and remains the power behind the Renewable Heat Now campaign, and before that, she was the power behind Heat Smart Thompsons County. I have this theory that if we could figure out how to plug Lisa directly into the New York grid, we could run the whole state on her energy, and it would be clean energy. I'm especially happy to welcome Micah Lolito, my colleague and good friend from Third Act Upstate. He stepped in at the last minute because Michael Hernandez from Rewiring America unfortunately couldn't make it. Michael, as it turns out, is a mechanical engineer by training, and in his career, he helped campuses across the United States electrify their facilities and mechanical systems. He's probably the only one of us who's ever actually engineered and installed EV chargers himself. And he's an 8-year EV driver starting with a Fiat 500e, which very few people can claim, but which is a great thing. So welcome, Michael. Welcome, Lisa. All right, let's get right into it. Sunday is a celebration. So let's kick off with some accomplishments, successes. Daniel, you're right next to me. So thinking about upstate New York and electrification of buildings in particular, what do you see as some of the successes that we've achieved?
Yeah, there are many. I'm based in Troy, so I'll focus on an example from Troy. So who here knows about geothermal energy? Okay, basically everybody. Good. This is an early adopter crowd, and I'm glad to see that. So in Troy, we are planning to construct a thermal energy network, which is a large-scale geothermal network that would run, let's say, like a quarter of downtown, maybe a little bit less, maybe a fifth of downtown. And it has been in the works for so long, 5 years or so. And that's sometimes just what it takes, right, to plan these things. But we're very excited to soon have the very first thermal energy network that is municipally owned and is a pilot project for National Grid Upstate. So yeah, that's kind of the thing that's on the horizon for Troy. And my organization, we also develop affordable housing, and we just proposed to NYSERDA on Wednesday a thermal energy network for our affordable housing complex. And the existing building there is called School 10, which, you know, in the spirit of so many puns, you know, School 10 Square is what we're calling it, 10 being thermal energy network, spelled out fully. So 2 thermal energy networks coming to Troy. That's what I'm excited about.
Fantastic. Lisa, you want to jump in? You've been doing this for quite a while. How about what do you see, particularly benefits for homeowners and renters?
Yeah, thanks. And I don't think Daniel mentioned, but that Troy project takes heat out of the Hudson River, right? Which is heat energy that's just sitting in the water, not bothering anybody. And it's going to be a really exciting project. I've been watching it from a distance. So, we hear a lot of rhetoric about building electrification from the opponents. It's scaring legislators. It's scaring the governor. And I just wish that one elected official would take me up on my frequent offer to take them on a tour, because building electrification is happening. It's successful. It's beautiful. It's comfortable. I could give a tour and show you any kind of building: a luxury hotel, an airport terminal, affordable housing, luxury housing. The new conference center in Ithaca is the first United States all-electric conference center with an all-electric commercial kitchen. I could just go on and on and on. These buildings exist. People live in them and work in them. Most people who are in these buildings don't even know that they're all-electric buildings. The technology is ready. It's being deployed. There's plenty of winter room on the grid. You often hear the opponents say the grid is going to crash. Even if we, in our wildest dreams, could electrify as many buildings as we need to in the time we would like to, the grid has plenty of headroom. And as you've heard, more renewable energy is coming onto the grid all the time. So, we have to be able to walk and chew gum at the same time. Let me just check my notes if that's everything I wanted to say. Yes, that's it. But the Renewable Heat Now campaign you'll hear more about it today, and I'm going to ask you to take action. But we've been active in New York for, I think, 8 or 9 years, really getting the word out about electrification, fighting for incentives, fighting for good policies, and helping people implement these things on the ground. And I'm excited for this panel.
Mike, hold off on EVs. We'll get there. But Daniel, I wanted to ask about jobs and in the community. So we have individual projects like the one you described and the ones Lisa describes. What kind of impact is that having on jobs, small businesses, in the community?
Yeah, it's having a really big impact, on kind of how we look at economic development statewide. I don't know everything about the entire state with the jobs picture, other than a couple statistics. The bulk of the work is in the building sector, right? So the solar sector, is the next biggest, but it pales in comparison. So it's something like almost 45% of all clean energy jobs are in the built environment. And that's only growing. It's outpacing the rest of the economy for growth. The only thing it is second to in economic growth is the semiconductor industry in the capital region, because that is growing so quickly. And I think that it is really a boon for the small business community. A lot of contractors who might really just focus on like general contracting or, carpentry are starting to realize that the big moneymaker is, HVAC and electrical and plumbing with the heat pump, hot water heaters. And I'm kind of every day, pounding the pavement out there trying to convince small business owners to expand into clean energy. So, if they're already an HVAC installer, but they only do fossil fuel systems, I tell them, well, why are you losing out on all this business? Everybody wants heat pumps. Why wouldn't you give them heat pumps? And people are starting to really get it. And especially the larger kind of, the mid-size, companies like, your Family Dan's or, the large ones that we all kind of know about, they're getting on board as well, which is huge, right? They see the market opportunity, but I think that the bigger opportunity is for small businesses to really get in there with the kind of top tier personalized customer service that we know and love from our small contractors, and deliver these heat pumps and induction stoves and heat pump water heaters and everything to all of us. Talk to your contractor and see if they're in heat pumps, because if they're not, they really should be.
Let me follow
Can
up
I
on
add
that.
something?
Yeah, please, Lisa.
Well, just Dan is completely right. The small businesses and the opportunities everywhere. I mean, is there anyone in this room who's house doesn't currently need a contractor to come either for some kind of electrical upgrade or weatherization or appliance upgrade? I mean, anyone who doesn't need that right now, speak up, okay? So there's a lot of opportunity out there, but there's also opportunity for organized labor to build these larger scale, neighborhood scale thermal energy networks, and organized labor is very excited about that. And we really need to lean in New York to the climate pieces that labor is on our side, because often there are opponents. So this is a really, really important piece of the puzzle for building decarbonization, where we do have our labor on our side, and we need to really build on that, pun intentional.
Following up on both of your comments on contractors, I've had any number of neighbors and friends come to me and have a question about, well, what's a heat pump and how does it work? And I send them to local contractors, and the contractors say, well, we're going to replace your gas furnace and we're going to replace your oil burner, without having a lot of knowledge of a heat pump. And so I know you run into those neighbors and friends also. What do you say to them when the contractor shows up, knocks on the door and says, yeah, cheapest option is we're just going to replace that gas burner?
That one, you want me to take it?
Up to you.
You go and I'll see it.
Yeah. You know, we do see this, right? Because electric rates are going up, right? The utilities are really trying to force the rates up. So it's no secret that that it is tough for, you know, household economics, especially if you're on a fixed income or, you know, low or middle income. It is kind of necessary to look at it with a holistic view. And what I mean by that is you really want to put your building envelope first. Every dollar that you spend on your building envelope is a dollar you'll save later. Like, it's way more than a dollar you'll
Does
save.
everybody here know what a building envelope is?
So the building envelope is basically a series of layers. There are multiple layers in your building envelope, but the primary one would be the water control layer that sheds all the water. That's the one that your building must have, right? By code, it's like absolutely necessary. It's the, you know, the thing that keeps the water out. There's a thermal control layer that only some of us have, and that means the insulation, right? And then there's the air control layer, which helps the insulation, because when air is passing through insulation, that means it's not doing its job. It's not able to do its job. So you really kind of need those three in one, and there's a lot of building science behind it, but the basics are things like membranes and tapes, especially around the windows. A lot of people, are torn on spray foam. I have a lot of mixed emotions about spray foam. It's kind of what I would call a last-ditch effort. It's like the last option, in my opinion. There are, the blowing agents in foams like spray foam, but also rigid boards are hugely, they're very impactful. They're big global warming potential materials, and they leak out of that substance over time. Not to mention, spray foam has to cure in your house, so it's basically making your house into a chemical plant for a day or two. So if you are getting spray foam and you're opting for that solution, it is a 2-in-1 solution. It's a thermal barrier and an air barrier, at least the closed cell spray foam is. Very high R value, but it can trap moisture against your wood frame if you have a wood frame house. So be very careful, But if you decide to opt for it and your contractor doesn't tell you to vacate the house for 48 hours, do it anyway. Do it of your own volition, and take your pets with you. Find a pet-friendly motel or Airbnb, whatever it is. We're seeing people get sensitized, people who maybe have allergies or haven't had allergies in a while. They get resensitized because of the spray foam, and their allergies worsen because of it. So it's no joke. But it can be a last-ditch effort, and especially in places that are very hard to seal, it can be the only option. And that's what we look at it as, is like, this is the last option. Let's do everything we can, and then we use spray foam as, filling in those gaps that can't be sealed any other way.
All right, I'm going to go back to the question,
Yes.
which was about your heating system. And it's true. First of all, contractors, they come to your house, they're used to doing what they do. They're most comfortable doing what they're used to doing. So if what they've been doing their whole life is swapping out a gas boiler for a gas boiler, swapping out an electric furnace for, gas furnace for a gas furnace, that's their comfort level. And yes, it is cheaper usually to do that right now. On the other hand, you have to prepare yourself to be asking the right questions. Like, for example, where I live, most people used to not have air conditioning and not need it, but now we need it. So how much is it to have a gas boiler, a furnace, plus an air conditioner? And then, well, when you have heat pumps, you automatically have air conditioning. So you have to look at sort of a holistic view. I advise lots of individuals. Some people came to me hanging their head. I didn't know. I just got a new furnace. It's 90%, 95% efficient. What should I do? I said, well, there's embodied energy in that furnace. You've put it in, so do the other things. You are not personally responsible for solving the climate crisis by spending all of your money in your home. What you are responsible for is educating yourself and making a plan for your home over time. And when you find those points, like, is your water heater 10 years old or older? Do you make a plan to replace it before it's midnight on Christmas Eve and your water heater's all over your basement and you just have to get something right away? So these are the kinds of things that I counsel people on. Meanwhile, we are trying to pass the policies that help make it more affordable, easy for everyone to have the right kind of heating in their home. But you do have to be practical. I've been helping people get heat pumps in their home for 10 years, and I'm getting my first heat pumps next week. I live in a large, leaky farmhouse where getting heat pumps without completely tearing the house apart just wouldn't make any sense. But now I for part of my house, getting a new air barrier, new insulation, and I'm putting heat pumps in that part of the house. So, you have to be educated because you can't count on the contractor unless you're working directly with someone like Daniel to know everything that they need to know to advise you. And so, you have to think about those things too. And often heat pumps will save you money, but if you're switching from gas, I'm going to not lie, right now in this current pricing of our gas and electric, it's not going to save you money. It's going to cost you extra money. So you have to decide, am I willing to pay a little extra money to use this environmentally friendly premium product, just like you do for other premium products, organic vegetables or whatever it is, a car an electric car that will drive further so you can go where you want to go, et cetera. And that's a decision many of us, luckily in this room, probably can make for ourselves.
Yeah, if you could comment as a follow-up on that to the apples, oranges question, because I think a lot of people think, well, now I have a gas furnace. The equivalent is to replace it with a heat pump. But in many ways, that's comparing apples and oranges because of the whole air conditioning side of it. So
that's right.
It's a different kind of comparison, right?
Right. And if you have a highly efficient gas furnace, you can get a hybrid heat pump with a set temperature so that you'll be heating with the heat pump until it drops below the heat pump's optimal efficiency, and then the gas comes on. And, some winters you may be only using the gas for a few weeks. We're not going to transition our entire energy system overnight. It's a matter of making a plan to change and being able to be ready for those moments, because most people don't change their heating system very often, hopefully. I will just say that if your water heater or heating system is very old and you want to get the federal tax credit, you do need to act by the end of the year. But those aren't the only incentives. There's also great state incentives that are not expiring.
Let me follow up on plan, because you've said plan a couple times. I heard Daniel say it as well. It's complicated for many people. I've got a job, I think about other things, I teach a third grade class, I don't have a lot of time to do this. So what do you say, well, here's a hypo. What do you say to someone, they come in and they say, I'm a rural homeowner, I live in a double wide, I get delivered fuels, oil, I got an air conditioner on one end that I use. I don't have a garage. And if you ask me what kind of insulation I haven't a clue. So if somebody, how do you get somebody to start on looking at where they live, whether it's an apartment or a home?
Perfect. Well, the first thing I do is I help them find out who their clean energy hub is for their region. So if you're in the Capital District, you'll end up talking to Daniel or somebody at the Capital District hub. And then they will set you up with somebody who can do a home energy audit. And when your home energy audit will give you a lot of information, you'll be very overwhelmed and not know what to do. Then you have to go back to Daniel and say, I got this audit, and now what do I do next? Because even I had a home energy audit and had no idea where to start. So your home is a complicated system, and the first step to making that plan is, unless you already know, getting that home energy audit. And the customer that Andy just described might be financially qualified to get actually a whole lot of work done for free with the Empower Plus program, and that you could get the weatherization and maybe even a new water heater or heating system, if you, as well as some health and safety measures taken care of for you, courtesy of NYSERDA.
Great. Mike, let me bring you in here. Similar question, which is somebody comes to you and says, hey, I've heard about these EVs. I think I'm really going to get one. What do they have to think about first in terms of whether they have a garage, don't have a garage, what kind of electricity do they have coming in, et cetera?
Okay, that's a great question, because the first thing you want to look at is your main electrical service to your house. If your electrical panel has enough capacity. A level 2 charger, which is the 220 volt chargers, those require at least 50 amps of power. So in order to electrify your home completely, you probably want to have a 200 amp service. You don't need that just for electrical, but if you're eventually going to do a heat pump and other things, heat pump, water heater, you want to have at least 200 amp service. So once you've established that, you want to see how much it's going to cost you to put that in. I just recently put one in my house last year, and it cost me about $1,500 total. 30% of which was eligible for a federal tax credit, so I got about $500 back. So that's the first thing.
I don't think.
I'm sorry. Let me get closer here. Then the process we did, especially in the beginning, we went around and looked at various EVs. You want to know what your driving habits are, how much range you might need, okay, and kind of help that. Base your decision on that. Most of your EVs these days are going to be in the 250 to 300 mile range. You can get extended batteries that'll go farther than that. And then what we've done just to kind of ease ourselves into the market, even 8 years ago till today, is because the battery technologies are advancing so rapidly, we've just been leasing. And that can be a good option to look at if you're not really ready to dive right in and own a vehicle. So those are probably the main things that I would say you want to look at. The other, as far as going farther to the advantages, you never have to worry about an oil change anymore. Your basic maintenance that I've had to do on my cars over the years is change the cabin air filter, change the windshield wiper blades, and since we were leasing, we didn't even have to buy tires, but that would be probably the other thing you would need to do. So your maintenance costs are going to be a lot lower than they are for an internal combustion engine, and that's one of the things I really like about having an EV is, you're driving by the gas station and you see that line of cars waiting to get gas, and you say, I don't have to do that anymore.
Do you know the price of gas? Probably not anymore.
Yeah, because we also have a hybrid car,
okay.
So I know it's around $3. But I was just doing a little math on that recently, and I figured, if I was going, if my car has gets a 3.5 miles per kilowatt hour, and if I'm paying about 20 cents a kilowatt hour to go 35 miles, it would be about $2. If I have a car that gets 35 miles to the gallon, which a lot of your internal combustion engine vehicles don't. To go those 35 miles is going to cost me at least $3. So it's going to cost you, roughly 50% more at least to drive a gas car versus an electric car, just as an example.
Well, I just want to add, thanks for that, Mike, that if you're considering buying an EV and you qualify for the federal tax credit, you have 9 days left to do it. Because the federal tax credit, the $7,500 for EVs, which I believe the income limit is $150,000 a year for an individual and $300,000 or $350,000 for a household. I can't remember what. It's close to that. So if your income is under that and you want an EV, go get one right now. And I think and I have no affiliation with them, but I've heard that Leah Hyundai right here in the Capital District has Ioniqs on the lot ready to sell. And you can get that. They don't qualify for the tax credit, but they'll give you the $7,500, I think, right there. So, and my organization, Workers for Clean Power, has free energy coaching. On EVs, they will be happy to help you. But you only have 9 days to buy your EV. So please think about it.
Just following up on that, in fact, we got our Hyundai Ioniq 5 from Leah, and I was just there the other day, just trying to consider my options as this tax credit is running out, this rebate's running out. But they do have several Ioniq 5s on the lot that you could go down and at least test drive and maybe purchase. So, and they're really not sure what Hyundai is going to offer as far as incentives once the federal incentive goes away. They feel like there's going to be some additional incentive from Hyundai after October 1st, which is good to know. And I think the EV manufacturers all realize they're going to have to step up their incentives in order to keep selling their vehicles once the federal credit goes away.
Daniel, let me try to bring the EV discussion back around to the city. And in particular, I wanted to ask about apartments. So if folks live in an apartment, how do they go about not just having an EV, but also thinking about how their apartment is heated? What can they do to try to reduce the amount of carbon and switch to electric devices?
It's admittedly tough with a rental situation. You don't necessarily have control, right, over the building, but you can kind of pressure your landlord to upgrade and to install an EV charging station. Many of the cities around here are, and the private businesses that have parking lots, and sometimes if they're county government, they'll install these EV chargers. They're more and more prevalent. I think that that businesses are getting the message that consumers want EV charging stations at the business. If there is a parking lot, it's a growing portion of the consumer market for their clientele. So I think it only serves the businesses to install them. So if you're a business owner, you have a parking lot, install an EV charger, and you're going to grow your market share, right? But yeah, I mean, for apartments, it's definitely difficult. You have to, you have to consider if your building owner, right? Your landlord might not be your building owner. It might be a superintendent, right? So if you have like a management company style apartment, and those might be on the larger side or kind of the more, just as gentrification kind of speeds up, there are more corporatized landlords. So we're seeing it more and more. And a lot of people who are absentee landlords use management companies, right? So it's harder when you don't know your building owner. If you live in a building where you know your building owner or you can get in touch with them in some way, you can start that discussion, right? And especially if it's a row house or, kind of a 2 or 3 or 4, maybe sometimes 5 family house, it's easier to have that conversation than if it's like a 30-unit building or, a 50-unit complex or something like that. But the best case scenario is in a rental situation, which is more prevalent in the urban areas, would be if you have baseboard electric. So that would be like, start the conversation immediately, because they already have the electric panel, already has probably enough capacity, and electric baseboard is an extremely expensive way to heat. It's probably the most expensive other than delivered fuels.
Can I put a heat pump in my apartment?
If your landlord says you can. There are some, like, kind of in the same way that you would install an air conditioner in your window. There are some they're called oversill heat pumps, and they kind of look like a upside down U, like a lowercase n, I guess. And they just sit on the window sill, and that might be that's a non-invasive way to install a heat pump if you rent. But if you want to, if you love your apartment and you want to invest in the place where you live and not necessarily get, the equity from that investment, you can always have that conversation with your landlord. Say, I want to install a heat pump. There are some DIY options. I wouldn't suggest going with the DIY options like Mr. Cool that's sold on Amazon. They're preloaded refrigerant lines, which can leak pretty easily, and refrigerants are another extremely high global warming potential material. So be careful if you are doing the DIY angle. But yeah, you really got to talk to your landlord. And the best way to have that conversation is, there are these state incentives. Can we get a contractor in here, like Lisa was saying, to do that energy audit, insulate and air seal the building envelope, and then approach the conversation of heat pumps?
Got it.
Can I just add that something anybody can do is to cook on a portable induction cooktop. I have this huge, very fancy 6-burner gas range that was in our house, and now our 3 kids have moved out. So mostly we just cook on the little portable induction cooktop for almost everything. And then, of course, when we do replace the gas range, it will be with a bigger induction stove. But that's something you can do in any place, and they're very inexpensive.
Can you say a few more words about it? Because I promised at the top that everybody can have cool things.
Yeah,
And I know Mike will persuade people EVs are cool.
EVs are so cool because
All right.
they look cool and they're fun to drive. It's a little harder with the heat pumps because they do not look cool. But they are cool and they will keep you cool. But the induction stoves are really super cool. And if you haven't seen, there's incredible library of chefs that do induction cooking demos, many top chefs from around the world. They're incredibly fast, incredibly precise. They don't heat up the kitchen when you're using them. The real only downside is that the cookware you use has to be ferrous because it has to interact with the electromagnet of the stovetop. So you cannot use your aluminum cookware or glass cookware or copper, but you can use stainless steel, you can use cast iron, you can use most good cookware will work on induction, and it's really a pleasure to cook with. It's a little bit of a learning curve like anything, but it's actually really
How many
great.
people have an induction top? Okay. How about EVs? How many EVs do we have? Not bad. 2. Sure. How about heat pumps?
Next week.
That's this is not a normal audience. Which I wanted to comment on, and that is that here we are on Sunday in Albany. I would say, for the most part, we are Caucasian. For the most part, we have the time to be here and the interest in this subject. And it seems as though, as in so many other areas, the low and moderate income part of our population, the BIPOC part of our population, are being left behind. What do you see out there that encourages you, whether it's government policy, nonprofits, utilities? What are we doing to bring everybody forward in the clean energy revolution?
I can just give an example. I also volunteer with Habitat for Humanity, and I've been involved with about 20 homes that we built, and every one of those homes that we built in the last 2 years is heated and cooled by a heat pump.
Fantastic.
Yes.
I live in a very low-income rural part of New York State, and I think because I've actually done a lot of education about what is coming down the road for buildings, there's a whole bunch of duplexes for 55 plus being built in my town, and even though it's not the law yet, they are all electric. And this is not, I don't live in Bedford. I live in Horseheads. It's 100% Republican. The policies that are happening, the education that's happening, it is making builders look into what their options are, and it's just so neat to see. And these are rentals, and literally as soon as each one gets built, it's occupied. Like, I've never seen anything like it. So not exactly BIPOC, but also rural and low income.
Sure. Yeah, and I'll just round that out by saying the Clean Energy Hub network exists in every regional economic development region in the state. So no matter where you live, you have a hub. And we represent 6 nonprofits for the hub here in the capital region, most of which are based in the urban areas. So we do direct outreach to who are a lot of tenants, right? We're reaching out to a lot of tenants here in Albany and Troy and Schenectady. Many of them are low income, many of them are BIPOC, and there definitely is a hesitancy when it comes to trusting government programs. So I think that it's not the most seamless outreach that I've ever done. All outreach is difficult. I campaigned a lot on fracking, against fracking and all of that, and that was difficult because of kind of lack of awareness, right? This is difficult for a different reason. And I think that especially if you're involved in a faith community or some other kind of social community, maybe try to start planting the seeds, to make sure that organization, that nonprofit or community organization is beginning to kind of cultivate that awareness in the community there, and perhaps like adopting heat pumps for the facilities that you utilize, so that people can start to trust the technology and start to trust that, actually New York State does want what's best both for the people and for the grid. So there's a lot of nuance there, but I think I'll leave it there for now.
The clock's ticking down. We have just a few minutes. So a couple short questions. Lisa, I wanted to give you the chance to get in trouble if you want to.
Oh, yes.
So this is my governor for a day question. You actually get to sit in the governor's chair for a day, and you're thinking about electrification of buildings and transportation. Pick up your pen and tell us what you're going to do.
Okay. Always happy to get in trouble with you, Andy. So what I would do is, the first thing I would do is sign this bill that's sitting on my desk. It's S8417 or A8888. It is the repeal of the 100-foot rule. And I would love all of you to join me in asking Governor Hochul to sign this bill that many of us and many of you in this room campaigned for how many years, Daniel? A long time. And so if you wouldn't mind taking out your phones and doing a little text activism with me, I would. Does everyone have their phone? Pull that out.
It's electric.
It's electric. Can you go to text and type in this phone number to text to? It's 888, which is very cute because the bill is 8888. Yeah. All right, 888, then 989, then 8792. And, yep, 888. You're going to text to a phone number. This phone number is not in your contacts already, so you're going to have to type it in. Like you're going to go to, if you're going to text, and then you're going to, sorry, I don't have a slide for this with a QR code. I wish I did. 888-989-8792. 8792. Sorry, 8792. Thank you. 8792. And then you're going to send a text to that number, and the text is going to say, all caps, buildings. BUILDINGS, buildings. And you should get a link sent to your phone, which will allow you to take an action, which I'm going to ask you to take right now. Raise your hand if you got the link. Okay, it's working. So there you should be able to fill out your information. Do it right now, because I have another action. So you can't wait till later, because you're going to. Yes, the phone number that you're texting to. No, you're texting to phone number 888-989-8792. Len? It works, okay.
It works.
And you're going to send a text to that number, and the text is going to be all caps buildings. Then you're going to get a link. Now, I'm going to give you a second to fill that link out. And it's very important that you do it now, because then we're going to send it another message to that same phone number. So,
But Lisa, what's the 100-foot rule?
what's the 100-foot rule? I'll talk about that. So we have, as you guys all know, the climate law that says we have to cut emissions. And in order to do that, the climate scoping plan said in order to cut those emissions, New York has to take these actions. And that was 3 years ago. And have we taken those actions yet? No, we haven't, which is disgraceful. And one of them is to reform our public service law. So right now, our public service law says it is in the best interest of New York for that the utilities provide them with gas. And part of that is anyone who wants a new gas hookup, they get it for free. And we all pay for it. It raises our bills. It costs $200 million a year for us to keep expanding gas to new buildings. That's very silly. It's not bad to subsidize the energy system. It's bad to subsidize dirty energy when we have clean energy alternatives. That's what we're still doing now, and we're compelled to by law. So repealing that rule, the so-called 100-foot rule, because it's not free if you're beyond 100 feet of the gas system, but if you're within 100 feet of the gas system, it's free. So we are wanting to repeal that, and that bill is sitting on the governor's desk right now, and if you fill that out and send it to her, you're sending her a message. And can I keep going? Sorry, this is taking a long time, Andy, but I do have one more really important thing.
You have minus 2 minutes to finish.
All right. Part B. The state right now is making a new energy plan, and that energy plan is binding, and it is looking out 15 years to the future, so 2040. That energy plan, as it is right now in the draft form, is a pretty dramatic rollback from what our Climate Act says we need to do. It's very upsetting, it's very disappointing, and we need to fight it. The process to comment ends October 6th. There is one public hearing coming up on Zoom, which I can tell you about after the break, how to register and make a 2-minute comment, but you can send a written comment right now. So that same phone number, 888, whatever I said, you're now going to send that same number, 888-989-8792. Now you're going to send that to that phone number, this message, all caps, NYS, New York State, Energy, NYS Energy, to that number.
So I think they both go to the same link.
Same phone number. No, it's different links.
Well, when I put in buildings, I got this energy plan comment.
But that was that should have been the 100-foot rule. Sorry. Okay, but this one is actually comments on the buildings and the power grid and transportation.
And anyone who needs to work that out on your phone is welcome to come up and talk to Lisa afterwards,
Yes.
or Daniel, because I'm
And
not.
I will just say, the state energy plan hearings have been going on. They were announced with very little notice. They've only held about 6 of them. There was one in Albany. But there's the last one, which is virtual, so anyone can join if they have an internet connection and a computer on September 30th, and I can help you sign up to speak at that. Thanks.
Great, fantastic. And thank you for that. And thank all the panelists, Michael, Lisa, Daniel. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.